They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread and butt sex. They care way too much but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got 3 big old dicks that you can suck.
The whole time.
Just now started recording. Hey,
We've been talking for 4 minutes, y'all, and you'll never hear it. I guess we'll try to repeat some of it, but yeah, we just haven't been recording.
I'm so sorry. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED podcast. We'd like to extend a special thank you to everybody who was at our Portland shows this weekend in Portland, Oregon at the Helium Comedy Club. Had a blast. We always have a blast, and it's we're recording this on Monday. I'm almost completely out of juice. I'm running on fumes because those shows were just absolutely amazing. We had our buddy Tushar with us. 5 flame shows, and Portland literally never disappoints.
No, it doesn't. Portland's got its own thing going on and fully embraces it, and it suits what we do very well, and we've never had anything less than a fire time in Portland. And this weekend was no different. So yeah, thanks to everybody in the Rose City area who came out to Helium and saw us. Like you were saying, hit so hard that I'm still reeling from it. Cause that is the thing. It's like sometimes shows hit too hard, place hits too hard, at the age we're getting to now, it's like you almost got to pay for that for a couple of days afterwards, but it's all right. It's worth it.
Wouldn't for sure.
The world. But yeah, I'm definitely a little zapped today.
And we were talking at the bar before, I think maybe the Saturday shows or something. Like, don't get me wrong, we boozed and had a good time, but we to the extent that we normally, the standard that we've set for ourselves on WellRED, we actually took it pretty easy. And we were sitting there at the bar and you were just like, man, do you still feel like you've kind of went hard every night? And I'm like, yeah, but what's that all about? And you're like, I just think that the shows were so fire and the meet and greets were so fire and meeting everybody, like maybe we're just regular exhausted like a normal person would be, because it was just that level of great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't have a better theory. It used to be that we was just going
so hard,
acting like we was rock stars, and we've realized the shows can still hit and we can still have a good time either way without doing that. But it does still take something out of you. But yeah, I don't want it to sound to anybody like we're complaining about that.
No,
that's how hard it hit. It hit so awesome. Hard.
Yeah,
that's how we're currently feeling. So, but on that note, if you're hearing that, you got a little bit of FOMO. If you're anywhere in the northern Kentucky region, anywhere thereabouts whatsoever, we're going to be in Louisville this weekend. You can go to wellredcomedy.com, April 21st through the 23rd.
That is correct.
Yeah, wellredcomedy.com. Get your tickets. You may notice you go on wellredcomedy.com. These are the last WellRED shows for a while. That is true. For a while, not forever. Everything's fine. The band's not breaking up or nothing. Corey wanted some time off. I wanted to try some stuff. So I guess I'll go ahead and announce now. I'm going to officially announce it on social media next week, but I'm going to be doing some solo shows in the coming months, going to Ohio, upstate New York, Virginia, some other places, still adding some dates. So you can go to TreCrowder.com, but we're also going to put something on WellRedComedy.com that redirects there to avoid any confusion, hopefully. So I'll be out there doing shows, and yeah, reiterate, everything's fine. No, it's no Yoko Ono Beatles situation going on. There will be more WellRED shows in the future. We're just doing some different stuff temporarily for the nonce. So these Louisville shows, they are the last WellRED shows for a while. So I mean, if you're around there, you want to come out.
But yeah, so go see them. Like I said, the band is not breaking up. I literally just wanted some time off. It's funny because we've had people that have gone to the website and they saw that, because normally our website is chock full of holy God, we're going to be here and there, and people were like, well, what's going on with that? And I go, oh, I just wanted to take some time off. And they were like, wait, y'all can do that? Like you can y'all don't normally do that. You seem to be going pretty full bore. And I was like, yeah, I hear you. So I'm taking some time off. Huh?
What's funny is people who've been listening for a while might remember, if they haven't forgotten, pretty much the only time in the last 6 years we willingly took any time off. We decided to give ourselves like a 2 to 3 month break, and we planned this over a year in advance. We decided we're going to take a 2 to 3 month break at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
So that was the only time we'd really taken much time off in 4 years at that point, and then wouldn't you know it, world ends. 18-month forced hiatus after that. But yeah, so that's the deal.
Yeah, that is the deal. That's the deal, pickle. But yes, they're going to be in Louisville. Those will be our final shows for a while, and I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, me too. So it's Easter Monday. And I don't remember if we've ever talked about it on here or not, Easter specifically. Like, the listeners know I'm Bible dumb, I'm church dumb, the Lord dumb. You and Drew grew up in it heavily, but I'm still from the South. Obviously, went to a bunch of egg hunts and shit. But I guess I'm just curious, like, I don't know. Walk me through what Easter's like and when the Lord hits for a Southern household.
Well, for me, it was probably even a little bit more different than everybody else's, just because, you hear people talk about like, oh, we were there every time the doors were open. And that was very true, because not only were we big churchgoers, but not only was my mama in the choir, she was also a solo singer. My mom can fucking sing. And so she was a solo singer, and she was one that was in like more of a heavy rotation than even anybody else. My mama was also like a pinch singer. So even if mama had just sang the week before, if somebody like was like they were supposed to sing a solo and they were sick, they'd come in and get my mom. So she was there practicing all the time. She was also in charge of Vacation Bible School, and my dad was in charge of the entertainment for Vacation Bible School. My dad was also in the church band. I said all that to say this. Easter at a church like we were going, there's also the Easter pageant that you put on, which is a similar, like, so during Christmas, they've got the Christmas cantata where they do, they do the birth of Jesus in a play.
Yeah. Well, people dress up like the wise men and shit. They do the whole manger
all
thing.
That. Well, at Easter, there's the Easter pageant where they do the whole crucifixion. Like they do all that. Yeah, all that. And because of that, my mom did the music for it. And I, as a child, was always a member of the cast. I played, all the kids usually played like the little kids waving the palms on Palm Sunday when Jesus rides his donkey in, which, yes, we had a real donkey. But I got graduated to, I was Pontius Pilate's water boy, because my papaw Bobby played Pontius Pilate. So like Easter week for us was practice every day, getting ready for the Easter pageant, and then all that, and then the service, and then of course supper,
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about, cause like
it sucked.
For me, yeah, right. It's wild. Like, I mean, everything you just said completely makes sense, but it's wild because for me, Easter was like a pretty half-ass holiday. Like there would be things that when I went some egg hunts and shit when I was a kid, or like whatever, but that whole full production deal was never part of it. And also, I was saying on one of my Patreon videos earlier, like I've always thought that Easter, of course, I'm aware of all the heavy Lord stuff that's going on with Easter, but I've always thought that it's also pretty easy to ignore if you want to, because of how like goofy and silly and nonsensical a lot of the traditions are. Meaning, like, and this has been pointed out a million times before by other people, but I'm making a specific point about it because it's like, you're like, what the fuck does a rabbit with rabbits don't lay eggs? There's a rabbit with eggs and chocolate, and like that's supposed to be something to do with Jesus. What the hell's going on? But like that hits for me because it's really easy to hide
like Christmas and Santa and
it's really easy to hide the Jesus ball. So if you've got like little kids and you want to, occupy their time in the yard for a little while on a, Sunday in the spring, like you can do, like we've always done Easter shit, just like a little egg hunt and stuff like that. Like every year for the boys, they don't know shit about the Lord. Like they're gonna be surprised when they find out later that Easter is some Lord
metal
stuff,
pretty metal.
They had no idea. But I'm saying I appreciate that about it because it makes it easy to just cut all that out. Having said that, it's not a huge thing for like I could take or leave Easter, but I appreciate that aspect of it.
Well, I think a lot of people feel that way. Like Easter's one of those holidays that like there's people that like, there's people who like they consider themselves Christians, but they don't go to church every week. They're just like, oh yeah. But Easter is a time when like everyone's well, we at least go on Easter and Christmas, and because of that, I've always sort of felt like the church considers Easter and Christmas like sweeps week. You know what I mean? Like here's the theory. Here's the theory with a church. They're like, okay, if we put on a really good show, then these people will keep coming. Like we know we got them for Easter, and the way that a church operates is they have to have a lot of members because they have to keep getting the tithes and the offering and stuff like that.
The building fund.
The building fund. So Easter is like sweeps week. They're like, we know that people are going to be tuned in, so we've got to put on this whole show, and while they're here, try to get them to stick around for next week. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. I mean, it never would have occurred to me, but I follow what you're saying completely. And I mean, I think that tracks. Easter's when you pull out all the stops.
Yeah, exactly.
How metal do they get in that crucifixion stuff? Like in the pageant,
as metal as you can get without actually nailing the man to the cross. Like he's up there.
You got like squibs and fake blood and fucking cat of nine tails and shit.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Well, how did they not actually fuck the dude up? Okay. How did they?
It was sound effects, and they would.
How
just
did they
barely
cast Jesus?
Well, it was just the preacher did it.
The preacher's always Jesus. Okay.
In this, it was the associate pastor who was the preacher's son. And he, I'll be honest with you, I'm not kidding about. He did a really good job. But it's like, no, we didn't have a Jew, so it had to be him. And you do the whole Easter play is like. You simulate, Good Friday when he rides into town, and then they do the Last Supper, and then they do his trial, and then they do the crucifixion, and then they do the resurrection. So there's a lot of set changes and stuff. But like, yeah, man, they put him up there, and they had the two thieves up there too, and him talking to him, and they would they had these huge, thunder sound effects. They would play with the lights at the church. And I mean, no, they came in and whipped him, but like I think what it was is that the cat of nine tails, what it was, they had like t-shirt cloth at the end of it, and they just had sound effects and stuff like that. But like they also put fake blood and stuff on his back and everything. Like it's intense for kids to sit there and see all that shit.
Right. Yeah.
But God forbid they read mouse. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, but what's the I don't know. What's the rationale for that? Like, because these are the won't somebody please think of the children crowd? If you make a reference to a girl having her period, just a reference to it, like an allusion to it in a Disney movie, a lot of the same crowd who's at this Easter pageant are going to be going on Facebook like, I can't believe this is, they think Disney thinks this is appropriate for my daughter. I'm going to have this conversation with them now or whatever. Like, how did those people, rationalize the whooping Jesus's ass with fake blood and all that in front of kids? It's like
those kids need to be.
I know, right?
They need to be scared. This is about their everlasting soul,
right?
It's because they care about Jesus.
I know, but it isn't that they don't understand. They fully understand how it's too much for a kid.
They have to, dude.
But it's worth it to them.
Yeah, because
it's the proper kind of too much for a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no reason for them learning about the Holocaust is not going to help them get into heaven, so it's too much. But this, I really do think they're just like, look, we understand it, but at all cost, kids, and that's another thing too, is like they really do believe that a 4 and 5 year old is old enough and mature enough to make a decision based on their everlasting soul. Like they think that kid is able to do it. But that same kid, if they said, I think I'm attracted to other boys, they'd be like, you're too young. You can't possibly know that. But like when it comes to your everlasting soul, they're like, yes, he's 5. He is of the age. He can make this commitment. He needs to see Jesus get whipped.
That's like, I know for a fact I've told this story on here probably multiple times, but it's at least been a minute, so I'll do it again. This was at Christmas time, not Easter time, but my college girlfriend was from a real churchy
Bag of shit
family.
Amber?
No, post her. Real churchy ass family. She had a family member that worked in like a Christian corporation real high up. So he was like moneyed churchy too.
Mhm.
He was like
Those are the
business
worst.
church, like business church.
That's
you
the
know what I
worst.
mean? Yeah. And they had a big Christmas thing at that guy's house in fucking like Bellevue or somewhere like that in Nashville, like one of the hittingest neighborhoods in Nashville, but I don't remember which one. And that guy that I'm talking about, whose house it was, business church man, he had a like
I think there's a
5-year-old.
Christian superhero movie called that.
Yeah. Kevin Sorbo's the star of it.
Business church man.
Yeah. Just throwing gays out of a boardroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a 5-year-old, a little boy, like the age you're talking about, 4 or 5, could not have been older than 5. And he walked up to him and interrupted his dad in the middle of his dad, like talking to some other, adults or something. And he's like, cute little kids. He's like, daddy, daddy, daddy. So everybody stops and listens to him like, oh, what kind of cute thing is this kid going to say? So everybody in there is watching this little kid. He's like, daddy, daddy. And the guy stops. He's like, yes, honey, what is it? And he goes, is it true that the Jews killed Jesus? And the dad goes, that's right, honey, it is. And then he was like, so anyway, the quarterly reports came out and it was not great. Like literally, that's exactly what happened. And he didn't elaborate. He's like, that's right, honey, it is. And then just turned around and went back to talking to the other business churchman. And I remember seemed like no one else was even a little bit affected by that.
Of course not.
And I was just over there in the corner like, what the fuck was that? Like, because like to a 5-year, all that kid knows is that like all he's capable of understanding about this whole deal is that like Jesus, that's like the best dude,
the best
ever.
guy ever. Yeah.
That's the best guy ever. He's your Lord. He's like the tops. He's awesome.
He's the cat's pajamas. Yeah.
And so then for the kid to be like, and I think I heard somewhere, I feel like that the Jews killed him.
All of them.
The Jews killed him. Who would do something like that? Now, who would kill the greatest man of all time? Like this is a 5-year-old thought process. Ask his dad for confirmation, and all his dad gives him is yes.
Yeah,
that is what happened.
That's true.
No context, no nothing. Just gave him that. So now that 5-year-old's just running around thinking like, how would a 5-year-old in that scenario like not be terrified or apprehensive of Jews from that point on until something else happens in their life to give them a different impression? Because like that's all he's gonna know to think.
And
it's like they killed the greatest man ever.
Right.
They're the people who did that. Like it's fucking crazy.
And when you're in the South, for the most part, I'm not sitting here saying that there's no Jews in the South. I'm aware that there are. That'd be an insane thing to think. But like there's not, where we're from in our areas, there are not a lot. Right.
No.
So like
I've said before, I literally met the first Jewish person I met. I was like 20 years old in college.
Right.
And I remember it. I remember what she looked like. I remember everything because it was the first time.
So my point is that it would take a long time for them to ever have another experience where it was that, hey, welcome Drew Morgan to the show. We're talking about Jews killing Jesus. Your thoughts?
They did that shit.
Yeah, that's what we heard. That's what we heard.
The Romans helped them though.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing too. I would like Trae,
Easter talk.
Trae, we were talking about the Easter pageant, right? And when we did the Easter pageant at church, they actually didn't go heavy on the portrayal of that it was the Jews that did it. Like it was all Romans. Like in ours, it was all Romans. Like Robbie's dad, Robbie Sr., like he was dressed up as a Roman soldier and like he speared Jesus and stuff. So like actually, whenever the Mel Gibson Passion of the Christ thing came out, that was my first time when I was like, oh wait, it was the Jews that, because like in the Easter pageant, it was just all Roman soldiers and like Pontius Pilate was the judge. And like, it was just, my point is like, my church actually didn't do the whole, it was the Jews. You know what I mean?
So I say before Drew gives us his church's outlook on the Jews killing Jesus, we'll take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Sponsored by the Jews.
Yeah. So go ahead, Drew. Drew, you still there?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, the Jews.
Jesus.
Yeah, we didn't do it that way either. It was Romans in our play as well. I mean, I remember in the story, the the Jewish people, put him on trial, but then they had
Mhm.
to go to the Romans to get it done. The Christian church's relationship, both evangelical and Catholic, with the Jewish community has been one of the wilder ones over time in America that there is. There's a bunch of people who are pro-Israel in the evangelical community, and
most of
them. They try not to be anti-Semitic, but they are, and they're only pro-Israel because they think it will bring Jesus back quicker.
Right. Yeah,
Is there any part of it? Is there any part of it that's like, also because Israel's over there, like with the Muslims, meaning like
90% of it,
right? Yeah, Israel's like against the Muslims over there.
Almost
so American conservatives are like, so that's our team.
Also, Israel's the Jews that didn't come here,
right? Which hits for them,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's wild.
Follow the Old Testament, right?
Yes, exclusively. I'm pretty sure. Like that's what the Torah is, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So the tribes of Abraham are, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims. And in evangelical culture in America, they definitely prefer the Jews for a variety of reasons, which are racial, political, convenient, and like I said, they think that Israel existing will bring about the apocalypse and the second coming of Christ.
That's the thing about them that's so wild, is that like, yeah, they genuinely are rooting for like the world to fall apart because that's the apocalypse and Jesus comes back, right?
Well, it's even like that on a lower level with just their own lives. My mother-in-law talks about this, and she is a pretty hardcore Christian, but she's like, yeah, everyone around here, meaning like the South, because heaven's promised, they just kind of want to die.
Right, exactly.
It's like they're not doing anything with their life.
Yeah, that's their whole thing, is like, no, Earth is not supposed to be good. That's not where you get your reward. So they don't care. Like, that's why when they look at like global warming and stuff like that, they're like, awesome. We're not going to have a good time until we're all dead anyway. So why would we care?
Drew, I think I can hear me and Corey coming out of your stuff.
Yeah, you got headphones?
FYI.
No, Andy took them with her on the plane. Let me just say, my internet's not great. I'll let y'all go anyway. I'm on the road. I'll just say real quick that I've been in traffic. The internet don't hit. Andy took my headphones. It's one of them days.
Yeah. At least you got the G stuff.
And I think big rigs should be outlawed.
Yeah. You better watch that.
Good to see you, buddy. Have a fun trip.
Bye. Well, that was a fun little check-in from Drew.
I didn't know I could ban him from the studio. It says here.
Did you see? So I'm pretty sure Mark threaded it. Did you that video that went viral of them Christians on that plane?
Yeah. I tweeted about it too. I saw you just made a video today.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just wondering what you thought about that. And also, so I tried to. My first question was, and I tried to look it up, and from what I could tell, unless I missed something, it hasn't been like confirmed either way. But I was like, okay, is that like a big ass church group that's got the whole plane,
for sure,
or is it like a commercial plane with regular people on it, and half of them or whatever are this church group? Because that makes a huge difference.
I think it's definitely that, because you saw that.
I said that in the video, because it's not. If it's the former, it's just I feel bad for them flight attendants, but it's whatever, like. But
no, it's definitely the latter. It's definitely the latter.
Meaning you think there's regular people?
Yeah, I know there are, and here's how I know there are. I tweeted about
their faces.
I looked at this. I looked at this one dude's face who it was happening to, and I screenshotted that and shared it with the video. And I was like, "We are all this guy," and like he's just sitting there like. Jesus
I know.
Christ.
I thought the same thing. I like looking at that dude, and there was another couple of people I looked at, and I was like, they do not look like they're on board with this.
No.
But I just thought, benefit of the doubt in the event it was, because I didn't know, I know churches they be doing all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you like if you was on a plane and that started happening? I mean, I know what we both would do. I think just like turn our headphones up as loud as possible and try to pretend that it wasn't happening. And
either that, or I'd have been the one that filmed it.
Death.
Yeah, right. But
yeah.
mostly I would have already had my headphones in. I'm sure that I would have looked up to be like, are you fucking serious? I probably would have taken a quick video for, my own purposes for the internet and also to show my wife. But for the most part, I'd have been like, okay, this podcast is about to get a little bit louder. But that bullshit, man, like you can't, like everyone like was retweeting and stuff. Like, I don't understand how these people don't get that. Like, yes, that it's their faith, but like, you can't shove it down our throats and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you don't understand how these people operate.
Right.
They have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is their godly duty.
I was going to say something in the video at first, but I was just getting up against time. So I put it when I was talking about, I'm not sure whether it is a private plane or it is them with regular people. But I was going to say, I have absolutely no problem believing that it is a commercial plane with regular people on it, because I grew up in the South. And so on a multitude of occasions, I have been held captive by the Lord at an ostensibly public neutral gathering.
Yeah.
Like,
ain't it.
This whole, like, they just operate, a lot of them, especially in big groups, they seem to genuinely operate under this like assumption that like this all hits for everybody.
Yes.
And if it don't hit for you, then it should.
And right, it should. And we're going to try to,
whatever,
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and it's wild.
A billion people could like the entire world could retweet that saying this is stupid. And their takeaway from that would be like, that's what they said was going to happen. This is just us being persecuted, but we have to, regardless, in the face of adversity, we still have to do this because we're trying to get these people to the Lord. Like I've tried people try to rationalize their behavior. And I'm like, guys, they're always going to be like this because they genuinely believe that there's a hell. And if you're not on their team, you're going to it. And that person feels a responsibility to keep you from going there. Like you can't fucking do nothing with that person.
Yeah. It's some wild shit.
It don't hit.
No. And then like, it reminded me of a thing sort of, because then, and I talked about this in the video, Ilhan Omar from the squad, she tweeted the video and said, basically, I don't remember exactly, but it was basically like, what if a group of Muslims held a prayer service in the middle of a flight? How do you think that would go over in this country?
Not well.
Which is a really good point, because we all know exactly how it would go over. Right. And they got furious about that too. And it just like, it reminded me of, I didn't get into all this either, because it was going to be just like, why go back that far and just start bitching about Tim Tebow just because, although it's always a good time to bitch about
go ahead.
Tim Tebow. But I remember, it made me think of, I remember when Tebow was in the NFL on the Broncos and winning games despite not throwing the football as a quarterback, which like they took as proof of the Lord,
Right.
But when he was in the NFL doing his thing, Tebow mania, and everybody was Tebowing the Tebow pose and all that shit. When all that was going on, I remember on Facebook, I saw this meme get passed around. It was a picture of it was literally just a picture of Muslims praying, right?
Yeah.
Like Muslims on carpets praying. You couldn't tell where it was. It could have been in fucking Jordan, or it could have been in a mosque in America. You had no way of knowing where that picture was taken. It was just a picture of Muslims praying. And then beside it was a picture of Tebowing, right?
Right.
And the thing they're passing around everywhere, the Christians, and the caption said, "Why is this okay? The Muslims praying, but this isn't."
It was though.
Tebowing, and I posted it on Facebook and was just going off because it drove me crazy, because it was like, okay, so many things I want. First of all, it's clearly okay.
Right.
He's a fucking cultural phenomenon right now.
Right.
He's all over the goddamn every channel every day. Even people that don't fuck with sports are loving this shit 100% just because of that.
Right.
It's hugely okay. Secondly, religious freedom, they're literally just praying like that ought to be okay too.
Yeah.
But I guess you just don't want them to exist at all.
Right.
But thirdly, if there was a fucking Muslim quarterback, like
pulling out a blanket.
Kneeling in the fucking end zone after scoring. Yeah, pulling a blanket out and doing that and giving it up to Allah and stuff. Y'all would be losing your fucking minds over that.
I saw a similar thing.
But they genuinely see it in reverse. They truly believe it's reverse, that they're the ones who are on the persecution end of that whole dynamic. And
Their
Just-
persecution complex is
they
unbelievable.
love it, dude.
I saw the same thing kind of going around of them people sharing it. It was Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and Tim Tebow doing his prayer. And they go, why do y'all think this one is okay and this one ain't? And I go, that one wasn't okay.
Right.
It clearly wasn't. He's not in the fucking league.
Right.
What are you talking about? Like, that upset so many people.
I think a lot of those people, and this is of course fucking ridiculous, but I think a lot of those people that would share
Think
something
Tebow's
like that
out of the league because of that.
for similar reasons. They
So
think
stupid.
that they truly believe Tebow. They think about Tebow like a lot of people on the left think about Kaepernick, meaning
Right.
they think he'd still be in the league just burning it up if he wasn't forced out for being Christian in
Right.
America. Dude.
All the quarterbacks are Christian.
Player, I know, but like
They're all
the
Christian.
idea of a football player being pushed
Dude.
out of the game for being too Christian is asinine. Fucking Kurt Warner just had a goddamn God movie drop last month,
right,
or whatever. Like,
dude,
fucking,
I've heard Arian Foster talk at length at multiple points in his career, like right after he was out of college and right when he was in the pros and right after he left the pros, about how difficult it was because he's an atheist.
No, I know. He played at Tennessee. I mean,
and he was talking about how difficult that was for him. He's like, yeah, first off, I just didn't bring it up for a lot of reasons because, like, those cultures, most everybody is a Jesus freak. Like most black, white, all of them. And he's like, and in the NFL, it was like he's like, I didn't want to come out. But once I said I was an atheist, like, I was weird. I was the weird one. So, like, it's not, he's like, people start treating you different. They look, a lot of those people, these like sports people genuinely believe, like, well, if you're an atheist, you don't believe in structure at all. So how could you play on a team sport? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's,
dude.
So get the fuck out. Like, every quarterback in the league, I guarantee you, well, at least half of them at least are Christians, very open about it.
Oh, I'd say
like,
more
that's a
than
thing.
half. Yeah.
Right, for sure.
You know, and they're not all like in your face about it. Like,
no,
you know what I mean? Like most, like, because for the record, I'm as godless as it get. Well, I'm not as godless as it gets. Some pretty godless motherfuckers out there. I'm pretty goddamn godless.
Yeah.
I don't care at all that, you know what I mean? That we're all used to that. If you're going to fuck with sports, they're going to be giving it up to God after the game or whatever. And as comics have pointed out plenty of times before, like, there used to be like an almost like a running joke is like, I just want to see one guy blame God once for losing. But then that happened. Stevie Johnson, who played for the Bills, they lost a game, and I'll never forget it. Like, afterward, he didn't literally say, like, I'm putting this L on the Lord. He didn't say that. He didn't say that, but he did say, like, he said something like, I really thought that God was with us in this one, but I guess not. Apparently not, because, you saw what happened, and he, like, kind of blamed God for it, which was one of my favorite moments.
Well,
I wish more of that would happen.
If he's the one that won it for you, he has to be the one that lost it for you. Carlin used to have that great bit where he's like, all the football games always start off in the locker room with a prayer. They're like, dear God, please keep us safe during this exhibition. Let's see to it that none of us get hurt. And God's like, okay, what are you doing? Well, we're running as fast and hard as we can at each other at full speed. Oh, okay. Like, yeah, I mean, it's such a God thing, but yeah, I didn't hate Tebow because he was a Christian. I hated him because he went to Florida.
Me too.
Yeah.
All that stuff didn't help, but
yeah, I'm sure that Stafford's a Christian. I don't care. That's fine. Do your thing.
Yeah, man. I don't know. But the way they truly convince themselves and genuinely believe that they are among the most oppressed groups in this country, that they're consistently persecuted by everybody else.
It's their whole personality. Like, they have to, and they felt that way forever. Like, forever. And I will say, like, it definitely, we do live in a more accepting of other things across the board country than we did, let's say, in the 50s and 60s when it was only Jesus. But like, dude, even then they thought, like, dude, the world has been ending by these people's estimation ever since there was a Bible to tell you that it was going to happen. Like, it was always, we're in the end times. I remember our pastor used to say, we're closer to the end times than we've ever been. I'm like, well, yeah, that would have to be how that worked, no matter no matter what. But like always, man, like, you know, back like, although the world is worse than it's ever been, completely discounting the Holocaust, completely discounting slavery, completely discounting the Crusades, completely discounting the Black Plague. like, no, we live in a way better time. Are you fucking high? So yeah, but they have to. Like their whole model is that the world is against us and we must stand up for what we believe in. And they live in a country where the world could not be more for them, in my
Right.
opinion.
Exactly. And sort of on that note, another thing I talked about in my video about that, the Christian plain singers, was like they convince themselves they're persecuted, but they also just so baldly truly believe that like everyone who agrees with them about everything, like if you agree with them about all the important shit to be agreed upon with,
Right.
they truly believe that like all of society
Mhm.
should be constructed entirely around their accommodation and their comfort level. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
all the rules of society, all the rules of government, all of that, everything should be geared towards making a hit for them.
Yeah.
Regardless of what any other group of people believe. And conversely, if you differ from them, if you disagree with them, they believe it should be the government's number one priority to keep your ass in check,
Mhm.
and have, keep you fucking in your place. And it's just a wild way to look, because I truly feel like it's not the reverse is not true. Like
Of course not.
on our side, it's like it's the opposite. We want the world to be as fair as possible for as many people, as many different types of people as possible. The world should treat you generally the same, regardless of factors beyond your control, is all we're saying, and I said this in the video too, but it's just kind of wild and ironic that they are the freedom fucker side.
Yeah, right.
And we're, you know what I mean? Like they're the official fucking party of freedom, despite everything I just said. Like freedom don't fucking hit freedom to do anything other than
Be a white Christian.
all their shit. Yeah. That they ain't with it at all.
Again, though, the hardcore ones like always fall back on the like, but you don't understand. It has to be this way because of Jesus, and you're going to go to hell. Like these are things beyond us. Like we can't be accepting because the Bible, if we're accepting of these people, that means we're going along with the world. We're being worldly, and we're not supposed to do that. We are supposed to face this criticism and stand up for God no matter what. And it's not going to, like they would tell us from behind the pulpit, they're like, this lifestyle isn't going to make you any friends, but you've got to do it regardless. And it's like, where I'm from, it absolutely makes you friends.
It's the opposite, really.
Shitting me?
Like, yeah.
Dude. And
this lifestyle is required for you to be accepted in this community at large.
Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, I've been a godless motherfucker for a while. And I'm not going to sit here and say that like people actually, shit on me or try to like throw eggs at my house for not being a Christian. They don't. But I have 100% been looked down upon and felt looked down upon from people in my community who still think that one day I'm going to come back to the church, like I'm just out sowing my wild oats. But like to them, I'm not just like, oh, he's doing his own thing. Like I have left the flock and I am out living amongst the world, and I am a worldly, heathenistic sinner who I'm sure a lot of them were like, we would not want our kids hanging around a place where Corey and his kids or Corey and his niece is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not of us. Like they 100% do that shit.
Yeah. What,
was it like that? Did you feel that way in Salina?
So I was actually, that's what I was about to bring up. I can't remember if we talked about this before. I know we talked before about how I only realized looking back how apparently wild Salina was in a lot of different ways that I took for granted. Like I talked before about how like I had a really skewed perspective on just exactly how racist, for example, like a lot of the South was, because I went to school with black kids and there's a black community in Salina. And like I said, I've since found out from talking like Paige's age, my sister and other people, it really depended on the grade you were in, apparently. But like in my grade, we had a fair number of black kids. They all played on the sports teams together and stuff. And like, as I've said, but like generally speaking, people in my high school, at least all the ones that I was ever around or in public, like they was not saying the N-word because
Right.
that's how you got your ass whipped.
whooped,
Like,
yeah.
like Cedric did not play that shit.
Right, of
So
course.
people weren't saying it, and it just like it wasn't out in the open and everything. So I graduated thinking that all those stereotypes, I was like, dude, that's bullshit. That's unfair. We ain't like that no more. And then I
Which is
found out pretty quickly. I met people from other towns of a similar size, but not a similar makeup. And they were just like, bro, are you serious? They're
Yeah.
like, everybody, it's the most crazy racist place you can imagine, you know?
Right.
And so like, along with that, I guess there's a ton of churches in Salina, ton of people go to church and all that. But honestly, all of my boys who now today are guys that are, you know, more like us culturally and philosophically and everything.
Right.
But none of us and none of our families either went to church. None
Right.
of us. Like my actual group of friends, like looking back on it, none of them. A couple of them might have told you they would have identified as Christian, but they didn't like ever go to church. And a lot of them just didn't fuck with it whatsoever. And we were like, you know, my group of friends was like the group of dudes in my high school. You know
Right.
what I mean? So like we weren't, it honestly wasn't like that in Salina, but Salina was also a very, very utterly broken place, right?
Of
I've
course.
also told you before about how every single one of my friends came from a broken home. None of their parents were married. Not one guy had married parents. That's
Yeah.
it. Everybody else is and like half everybody's fucking parents were now unemployed or on pills or whatever, and it's just like the church. God forgot that town, but
Of course, yeah.
fucking the Lord left us behind,
Yeah.
I guess. But it honestly wasn't. It wasn't like you know, like the way you sort of described in Salina. But like I said, Salina was kind of different in a lot of ways. Looking back on it,
Well, my core group of friends now, none go to
right?
church. Like none.
But like when y'all were in school and shit, y'all all went to
We
church,
had
right?
to.
You had to,
It
right?
wasn't our choice. Yeah, like
Yeah,
our
right.
parents were always like, "Look, when you turn 18, you can make your own decision." And then none of us have stepped foot since we
Yeah.
were 18. And I think all of them were just like, "Oh no, we thought that it would keep like, no, you're 18, don't have to do it. Cool." But like all like that, my core group of friends all went to that same church. I know a lot of people in our areas who they're still my friends, but you know what? You're the core group, you know.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them still go to church, but they didn't go to that church. You know what I mean? And it seems like everyone who went to that church was immediately like, fuck this. We're not, because it was
I mean, is that the same church from that story about your dad taking y'all out of there because the preacher was racist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
well,
one.
Maybe that particular church just didn't hit. For
No,
I'm
saying like there's another church around here that we ended up going to after that one that like it's one of those like it is denominational, but it's like skews to the side of like, but we want everybody to come here. And like, it was super contemporary, you know, they didn't sing so much gospel music as they did like praise music, which like that part actually don't hit for me. I genuinely like gospel and hymns. That was my favorite. That was the only part of church that I liked. Like the songs were really good and we had a really good choir. But we go over there and it was a more accepting place. And those people still kind of go to church. You know what I mean? So like there's something to be said for that the place I went to that was completely like, you're either with us or you're against us. And it was every service was like hellfire and brimstone. Like every service was like tent revival shit. And this other one was like very loose, very, very loving. And other churches like, no, you can't play it like that. You got to be hardcore. You know, like I told you, that one fucking church, the preacher's son, he caught him when he was in middle school. He caught him jacking off and he made him go up in the pulpit and apologize to the people for him jerking off. And like, they didn't even have to know. That's
motherfucker
insane.
Probably flogs himself in a fucking
yes, dude. I like fucker
takes
from
his shirt off and kneels in front of a shrine to fucking somebody and just whips his own ass with a belt.
It's so fun. You're referring to what's the TV show? Michael Shannon in Boardwalk Empire.
Boardwalk Empire, and also there are people who do that. It was
I know.
In Angels and Demons or the Da Vinci Code one, that wild ass monk dude that's in that. He flogged himself. So flogging himself is kind of a go-to for me when we're talking about these type of people.
No, but I was saying it's funny because I'm not going to say the person's name because that's I'm not going to be like his dad and out him like that. But whenever I saw that first Michael Shannon scene in Boardwalk Empire with him doing that, I was like, I bet you blank does that shit. I'm serious.
Yeah, it checks out.
Yeah, but that's just like, that's an intense fucked up thing. And like, and by the way, that wasn't, now that dude, he went to our church when I was younger, and then he was so insane that he had to go off and start his own more closer to snake handling church.
Yeah.
And that's
a whole wild enough.
No,
like,
and that's a
we
whole
get some snakes in here.
Yeah, and that's a whole different level. And then like there's then there's like other sects, like the Church of Christ is like less intense maybe about that stuff, but like they can't have musical instruments.
They also, and I'll get some of these wrong, but I'm pretty sure in Salina at least it was the Church of Christ that was like, one of them, I feel like it was the Church of Christ, were very specific about like, it wasn't just people who aren't Christians are going to hell, or it was like anyone who isn't literally the same exact denomination as like if it was Church of Christ, if I'm not wrong about that, then they were like, Presbyterians, Methodists, Baptists,
going to hell,
non-believers burning in hell for all eternity.
It's them because they had
music, the instrument. You're right, music was a whole thing. I remember didn't really.
And the reason that they felt that way from a theologian's standpoint is that all of those other denominations believe in, I'm pretty sure, once saved, always saved. Like if you accept Jesus into your heart, then obviously you're going to sin. Everybody sins. No Christian believes that there's other. The only person who literally never sinned is Jesus Christ. We have all sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's what they say. But in Church of Christ, and I'm sure we're going to get some emails about this, but their whole thing is like they have to get saved every single time they sin. So like we're talking multiple times. Like if you're Church of Christ and you look at some titties, you have to then get saved again. Right. And I'm going to finish talking about that after this.
Yeah. Okay. Is that some kind of Catholic influence or something? Because that's more like how Catholicism works, right?
Yeah.
It's
about works.
When you sin, you got to confess and do your whatever, your alms or absolution, whatever that shit is. You got to do 4 Hail Marys and 3.
Hello, Mary.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what I mean? You got to do certain, and then you're back in the good graces. After that.
It's so similar. And I say that too, because like the Church of Christ, and it's more of a structured service, whereas Catholic is a lot like that too. Like Southern Baptist kind of, it's a different show every week. You know what I mean? Like they're doing some different songs. Their preachers kind of winging it a little bit more, but over there, it's like they do communion every week because you have to take the Lord's Supper every week. Like that's a thing. But like, what was always the argument that my dad made with some of his Church of Christ friends, they also believe that you're not saved unless, like, you have to get baptized right afterwards or you're not saved. And so my dad would always be like, okay, so every time y'all sin and get saved again, y'all getting baptized again? They were like, well, no. And he's like, well, I thought you said that in order to be saved, you have to be baptized. And they're like, you do. And he's like, but I also thought y'all said that you have to get saved every time you sin. They're like, we do. And he's like, well, what about the baptism? Like, well, nobody's got time for that. It's like, so the Lord lets you off the hook because you ain't got time for that?
Well, you kind of just made me think of something else, talking about the Church of Christ and that whole, like, it ain't just non-Christians. It's even Christians who don't have this specific version of Christianity. They're burning in hell too. And all that stuff you were saying earlier, and I mean, I know you're right, but you're like, you got to understand what these people, like, they truly believe that a huge chunk of the world is going to fucking burn in hell, and it's their job to keep that from happening. I think that for a lot of them, ultimately deep down, I feel like they don't, though.
Yeah,
because,
right.
And it's because, like, just using that as one example, in a small town, a tight-knit community, it's wild if you go to that church and every football game and PTA meeting and stuff, seeing the other dads who go to the Methodist church, it's wild to truly believe that they and their family are damned for eternity, and to just let that slide. Like, shouldn't they be constantly trying to convert the Methodist over to their side, like, all the time? And you know what I mean? Like,
I guess.
wouldn't that be a huge problem for them if they truly believed that this other chunks of their community was going to burn in hellfire? Or are they just like, well, they made their bed with the Jews and the queers, so let them lay in it.
But it's also how, like, that queer bed, big thread count on the queer bed, by the way.
Big time. Highest thread count.
So it's kind of like how, I would say of all the Republicans that you hear screaming about how wrong abortion is, all of them don't really believe that.
Yeah, right.
Like, they can't, because they've had them before. So maybe there is part of it that's like, look, we don't deep down actually believe all this shit, but we want to be in charge, and this is structure. So many of them, like, my sister was talking about, my sister don't go to church, and it's not a thing that once we left the church, she didn't go, but then she had her kid, and she goes, yeah, we were thinking we might start going to church again. I was like, would you start believing again all of a sudden? She's like, well, it's not that. It's just like, it's just good structure for the kids. And like, so many of them truly believe that the only way that a child could get
knows
structure
how to be like a good kid
is the church. Like, they're like, if a kid's not raised in church, like, there's no way so many of them think that there's any way you have good manners and know how to actually be, because you didn't grow up in the church.
No, I know. We've talked about this before too, but yeah, I've had conversations with people that I knew well and thought were like friends who would like bring up the Bible or something, and they're totally sincere. And they're like, well, my whole thing, man, is like, if we didn't have the Bible, how would we know to love thy neighbor? How would we know the difference between right and wrong and all that? And I could tell they really mean this stuff. And I'm like, dude, you ought not need the Bible for none of that. Like, you ought just be that
People
way.
clearly knew it before.
Something is wrong with you.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's in all the book. It's in all of those books,
right?
And the reason it's in there is because someone thought that to write it down, which means that the thought of it existed. It's not like nobody was out there loving their neighbors until fucking ain't shit James decided to fucking put it in the book. Like, that's crazy. That's, like Penn Jillette said that thing one time that's always resonated with me. He goes, somebody asked me, he goes, because you're an atheist, they go, that's so, like, in your head, you believe that you can just rape and murder however much you want. And he goes, I do rape and murder however much I want, which is none.
Zero.
Which is zero. Yeah. I'm not a rapist or a murderer. I don't want to do that.
I know. I'm saying a glimpse into those people's minds is wild, because it implies that, like, without those things, they'd be doing that. They'd be out just raping and murdering all the time. It's just, it's wild, because you could tell they're confused by us being like, I don't need the Bible to tell me not to rape somebody. I just don't want to rape anybody. And you could tell they're just like, I don't get how that. That don't make no sense to me.
You brought that up with, like, we were talking about the movie The Purge the other day, and you were like, I just don't think that there's a lot of people who the law is the only thing keeping them from being a marauding rapist murderer.
Right.
And I agreed with you, but then I thought, however, what would end up happening if the purge was real is, like, there would be that one person that's like, all right, but I mean, I'm going to kill my father-in-law because he's had it coming.
Yeah. Anybody who really wants to kill somebody, if there was a purge, it would become official murder day, because all those people would be like, well, it's the day for it.
I think it would take care of, like, I think mostly percentage-wise, it would mostly be bad people that got murdered, though. I think it would be those people that a lot of people
you don't
are like,
think
look,
neither you nor I would make anybody's purge list?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But maybe we'll be a little further down.
Yeah, I would just,
it'd take him 6 or 7 purges to get to us, probably.
Yeah, also, I think me and you are, we're not, like, loaded rich or nothing, but we're well enough to where, like, I think we could find a good place to hide during the purge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also, and I said this in the original conversation you're talking about, but disclaimer, just so everybody knows, I have not actually sat through the Purge.
No, me either.
I'm just talking about the concept as I understand it. So if y'all are Purge fans and you start wanting to hit us with a bunch of, like, well, actually in those movies, you don't have to do that. I haven't seen them. I'm talking about just the idea of it as I understand it, is the context, how that came up. But May have to end a little early this week, right, Corey? You got a hard out coming up, don't you?
I got to hop out of here. But, hey, like I said, we're going to be in Louisville, Kentucky this weekend, which is going to end our little run for a while. Thanks to everybody in Portland. Those shows were fucking awesome. And by the way, if you haven't checked out me and Trae's new podcast, Puttin On Airs, I really wish that you would, because we're having a blast with it. And Trae, for anybody that does not know about Puttin On Airs somehow at this point, give them the elevator pitch.
Me and Corey's sorry trash asses talk about pinky up fancy people shit.
Yeah, and it's super fun.
Yeah.
This past week we talked about yachts and the Queen's Guard. Other episodes have included Casanova and wine and Henry VIII and influencers through history. So we're having a blast with it.
Mummies came up. Y'all didn't know mummies hit for fancy people, did you? Well, they did.
They did,
about it, and
they
funny.
do. I don't know what this next episode is, but if you are listening to it and you do like it, if you could do us a favor and actually subscribe to it, and also leave us a 5-star review and a rating. It will take you 2 seconds, but it will literally mean the world to us, because it will help keep us in the iTunes top 100. So that would be sweet. And also patreon.com/Trae Crowder. Also Into the Biscuit with Drew Morgan and DJ Lewis, and Bubba Shot the Podcast. We got a lot of shit going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I need this fucking break. All right, here we go. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We'd love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew. Skew.
Corey, do you like fancy shit?
You mean like cereal that don't come in a bag?
Fancier.
Oh, you mean like a car with a moonroof?
Even fancier.
Do you mean like having only one Christmas?
Not quite, but you're getting there.
Do you mean like curating a wine collection with the sole purpose of being an investment strategy, as opposed to the immediate gratification of getting drunk, taking the bag out of the box, blowing it up, and using it as a pillow for a farm party?
Actually, yeah, shit like that.
I do like shit like that.
Well, if you like shit like that, you're going to love Puttin On Airs, our new podcast wherein two very not fancy dipshits talk about very fancy real shit.
Yep, you can find it wherever you find your podcast. Like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.